This week we go zombie hunting in Dead Island Riptide, chat to the Lord Mayor of Adelaide about which games he likes to play, and stagger dizzily into the world of 1994. This is Player Attack. But first, the latest gaming news, and we can confirm another Call of Duty by the end of this year, but it's not Black Ops 3 or Modern Warfare 4. Instead, Call of Duty Ghosts is headed our way on November 5th.
There are those who wear masks to hide. And those who wear masks to show us what they stand for. To inspire. To unite. To defy. To strike fear in the hearts of their enemies. And hope in the hearts of their followers. There are those who wear masks to protect themselves. And there are those who wear masks to protect us all.
Developers Infinity Ward are promising a new chapter for the Call of Duty franchise. The new console cycle is as good a reason as any to employ a brand new gameplay engine, and a new gameplay engine requires a new sub-brand. We still haven't seen any gameplay footage and we're not entirely sure what to expect, but we won't be waiting too long. Call of Duty Ghosts is set to make its grand entrance on May 21st as part of the Microsoft event believed to herald the announcement of the new Xbox, potentially named the Xbox Fusion if secret domain registrations are any indication. Now, don't let that choice of event fool you. Ghosts is confirmed for PC and PS3 as well as Xbox 360 and, of course, the mysterious next-gen consoles to make sure everybody is covered. It makes sense then that Ghost will be proudly on display at E3 this year, and it won't be the only major military shooter hanging out with the kids. EA has confirmed that Battlefield 4 will indeed be a key component of this year's event, so get set for some explosive demonstrations. However, while most publishers are starting to whisper about what they might be showing off at E3, at least one other has made the public announcement about what it will not be. 2K Games has confirmed that, despite the recent excitement over the Bureau, it will not host a booth at next month's Expo. It's a confusing move that has disappointed many fans, but 2K insists that it still has plenty of great news due out over the coming months. The publisher's lineup for 2013 includes a new expansion for Civilization V, XCOM Enemy Unknown for iOS, and of course, new DLC for Borderlands 2. Some of that DLC will arrive on June 25th and feature a Borderlands twist on the classic Dungeons & Dragons style RPG.
All around the stag plant, the stalker chased a bandit. The stalker thought 'twas all in fun. Goes the bandit.
Tiny Tina's assault on Dragon Keep was accidentally outed by writer Anthony Birch. If you are going to take photos of sleeping workmates, in this case Gearbox Vice President Steve Gibson, keep an eye out for sensitive material that may be lurking in the background. The release of South Park: The Stick of Truth had been under a cloud following publisher THQ's bankruptcy earlier in the year. Ubisoft snapped up the project for $3.2 million and, despite leaving it off of the latest official release schedule, says it's all systems go for sometime in calendar 2013. No specific dates have been mentioned just yet, but online retailers are pinning their hopes on an August release, around the same time as Splinter Cell Blacklist, A Saints Row 4, Disney Infinity, and The Bureau. Sticking with Ubisoft, but looking a little further into the future, we do have some more information about Watch Dogs, which is officially set for release from November 21st around the world. At that stage, the game will hit PS3, Xbox 360, PC and Wii U, but it is also set to be a launch title for the PlayStation 4, and we're hearing stories it will be on other next-generation consoles too. If you are at all interested in this cyber dystopian future, you might like to meander down to your local gaming store. There's a number of pre-release bargains and special editions in store for this one, including the Vigilante edition, which features a cap and mask just like Aiden Pierce wears in the game. Also out in the second half of the year, Grand Theft Auto V, which features not one but 3 protagonists, which Rockstar Games took the time to introduce to us. There's Michael. He is a wealthy gentleman struggling with both a midlife crisis and his wife's extramarital adventures, so he's turned to crime as a way of feeling alive. Franklin is a self-professed gangbanger who's become caught up in the never-ending rivalry of the streets. That said, he'd like to leave that life behind him, please. And then there's Trevor.
Back in town, baby! Yeah!
Please, just go and ruin somebody else's home furnishing.
Each of those three has their own unique ability, whether it be able to deal extra damage or slow down time. You'll be able to jump between all three guys pretty much as you'd like, and we're promised gameplay that feels kinda like a combination of GTA 4 and the best bits of Red Dead Redemption. Grand Theft Auto 5 is due out on September 17. And finally, a couple of quick bits. If you remember Minerva, the beautiful mod for Half-Life 2, which put you deep inside an underground combine, you will be happy to know that it has just been officially re-released on Steam as a director's cut. If you don't remember Minerva, now's as good a time as any to get properly acquainted. The game is free as long as you have a copy of Half-Life 2 Episode 1, and it drops you on a remote island controlled by the Combine. If you would rather be dropped in a game developer studio in China, American McGee has a deal for you. The team at Spicy Horse is currently putting together a Kickstarter video for Alice Otherlands, the fabled third title in his fairy tale series. If you fancy yourself as a bit of a cosplayer and would like to be involved in making a game, head to our website and check out the details. The short version, take a photo of yourself in full Alice costume and email it to the developer before May 20th. You must have a valid passport, speak fluent English, and bear more than a passing resemblance to American McGee's Alice. For more details and to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen from Player Attack. I'm here with the Lord Mayor of Adelaide, Stephen Yarwood, and it turns out he's a bit of a secret video gamer. So apparently, your background history, you're into city planning, obviously, and you're a bit of a futurist and you enjoy that sort of thing. There is one game, obviously, that people are going to assume that you've played. So tell us, how much SimCity have you played in your life?
Well, I'd hate to admit exactly how many hours I've spent sitting in front of a computer, my old Pentium 75 playing the original SimCity, right through to more recent times. But I've got to say right now, I'd much rather do the real thing because I've got that once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I do like saying that being Lord Mayor is just like playing the game, only much more significant.
So you were saying that you haven't actually had a chance to play the new one because you are too busy doing it in the real world. But I hear that you have also won prizes for your skills at older versions of SimCity.
Yeah, I went to a national town planning conference and they actually had SimCity as a competition, only they had the sort of assessment of how you would win as the most money. And I knew at the time that wasn't right. So I sat down with the judges and helped rewrite the rules of who would win and why. And then I went on and actually won it.
So how is it different being a mayor in the real world as compared to being a mayor in SimCity?
Oh, well, I like to say that cities aren't rocket science. They're actually infinitely more complex. So, we're talking about a billion different variables about, dealing with people and subtly influencing how they use cities. And also we're going from an era where it was a sort of car dependency, and we've got to start to tackle some of these issues of congestion. So Australia might lose $20 billion of lost economic productivity from people sitting in traffic jams. So you've got to kind of work with what people want versus what cities need. And so you're really in the city business, and it's about getting people to move efficiently and get all of those sorts of things. So it's also about influence. Everyone thinks I've got this amazing magic wand and I can just approve developments, refuse developments, and just make things happen. It's not really about power, it's about influence and getting people to work together. So you've got to be much more patient and even better, at least you don't get aliens attacking and stuff like that. Well, I'll touch wood, hey? And of course, in the 21st century with email, social media, Facebook, Twitter, it's also about being accessible and, just imagine 1 minute to read and 1 minute to respond to 600 or 700 emails is actually about 20 hours a week. But I love keeping the local in local government.
And you do it all yourself. I mean, when we got here, you were sitting there, right, yep, can't talk, too busy emailing people.
Yeah, absolutely. I do all my own social media and I really enjoy it. It's this sense of being able to connect with the community, and I've been doing it for so long and in such a positive way that it is about me doing it, that even when I get trolls attacking me now, it's really bizarre because I have this community around me who actually come in and defend me and say, back off, this guy's actually trying to do the right thing. So that's been a really positive experience, and certainly there's Lord Mayors in every capital city in Australia, and I'm really punching above my weight in social media, so it's nice to be about 10 years younger than all of them and actually show them up in the digital dimension.
And I mean, speaking of being younger, you have made some amazing changes and improvements to Adelaide over the past, little while. I mean, we're seeing food trucks, we're seeing street art, we're seeing, the renovations that have been made to make the city a much nicer place to come into and just hang around with.
I think the most important thing is by making the city cooler, dare I say, more fun. It's a conscious strategy to keep young people who graduate in this city. We want them to start their businesses here. We want Adelaide to, really engage in that online 21st century information economy so that Adelaide can punch above its weight as an international brand of excellence. So there's a whole pile of stuff, from having a completely immersive Wi-Fi network throughout the entire CBD, the first in the country, right through to live music, because entrepreneurs play in rock bands and wear jeans, and street art. We've increased outdoor dining by 30%. So there's a huge amount of really positive things happening, some great infrastructure happening in the city, small bar legislation, really trying to make Adelaide a much more fun cultural environment. And in fact, I make the claim that we're actually the third busiest CBD in the country. We might not be Sydney or Melbourne, but boy, when you come here and you spend a few days, you kind of leave thinking this is a cool town to hang out in.
And to think, a large part of this came from you sitting around and sitting in zoning residential and commercial areas as a young person.
Well, I have to say, certainly as someone who did a town planning degree and is passionate about urban futures, playing SimCity was a part of that. It was all about me sort of learning how systems work, how things interact, what the consequences are of decisions, etc. So honestly, part of my education really got my head around it.
SimCity wasn't the only game that you played growing up, is it? You've also expressed a bit of interest in some other vastly different genres that may or may not have impacted on your life as Lord Mayor.
Yeah.
What else did you play?
Oh, wow. Well, certainly these days, over the Christmas break, I do admit to hanging out with my 3-year-old son and playing a bit of Star Wars Angry Birds, but that's just kind of like when you can't be bothered sitting in front of a computer and working hard or thinking too hard. But I've played a fair bit of Diablo, but also for me it's those 3D full roaming. So I am old school, so I'm talking Doom and everything that's come out of that sort of space. But being able to set up a keyboard and a mouse and get to the point where you're actually quite native in terms of being able to walk through a 3D digital dimension and feel really comfortable, walk, step, side step, jump, all of those things. I got to the point where I feel really comfortable. There's no motion sickness, and there's something to be said for packing a seriously big gun.
Zombies again, really? I guess we can't get enough of mowing down the living dead, and Dead Island Riptide gives us another chance to hack into some rotting flesh. This is kind of a half sequel, half DLC. It's pretty much the same as the first Dead Island game that we played in 2011 with some new content. We have a new character, skill trees, weapons, maps and missions, so if you played the first game, you pretty much know what to expect. The 4 characters from the original Dead Island return: rapper Sam B, Australian bodyguard Perna, American ex-footballer Logan, and Hong Kong police officer Xian. These characters specialise in each of the 4 weapon classes and therefore support different playstyles. The new addition to the team of survivors is John Morgan, the Australian Defence Force soldier who has a very broad accent and throws out some ripe Australian slang. He uses brass knuckles and has a powerful uppercut attack which supports a close melee fighting style.
Who are you?
I was a soldier before the shit hit the fan, part of a huge humanitarian search and rescue operation.
His special weapon consists of razor-sharp claws attached to gloves. I'm sure the resemblance to Hugh Jackman is entirely coincidental. The inclusion of Australian characters is a welcome change from the usual American cast, and it only occasionally slips into stereotype. The story goes that after escaping the zombie-infested prison island on Banoi, our heroes stumble into a shady military-civilian conspiracy aboard a carrier ship. A surprise storm erupts and takes the ship down, washing us up on another tropical island to face further hordes of zombies. The environments are lush and diverse, from gorgeous beaches with turquoise water to heavy jungles, caves, lagoons and small villages made out of bamboo. The shambling undead come at you out of varied backgrounds. The core mission is to escape the island alive by completing a variety of main and side quests that are mostly of the go here, do this type. Occasionally we come across a subplot about a psychotic missionary who wants to eat survivors or a scientist working on a cure, but these are pretty light narrative tidbits. Really though, this game is never going to win a Pulitzer Prize, and Dead Island lives and breathes by its RPG and combat gameplay. Each of the 5 characters favours one of the 4 weapon classes: blunt, blade, hand-to-hand and firearms, and their skill trees allow improvements in combat, survival and fury. Fury is a kind of power mode which provides buffs to combat based on character type and is particularly useful against groups of enemies or brutes. The basic combat gameplay is supplemented by occasional defend the base missions and the use of vehicles to traverse the island and of course run over zombies. As in any survival horror game, weapons are degradable but easily repaired, ammo is scarce and expensive, and death is a fairly common experience. Sometimes just avoiding enemies, especially tough ones, is the best strategy for just getting around. This is a really interesting mechanic and tends to go against the kill-em-all approach of many shooting games. Weapons are upgradable and modifiable, and adding fire or electricity to your fireman's axe is just as much fun as you might think. Multiplayer is central to Dead Island, it always has been, and being a survivor is always better with friends. Although there are no emergent missions or raids, the game supports a drop-in, drop-out cooperative multiplayer, and enemy difficulty scales to each player's level to keep the experience even. Some of the character classes are very complementary and support a strategic approach, although a run and gun attitude also works well. The approach to trade and reviving fallen allies supports this team-based multiplayer. Really, the core of this game is combat. Firearms handle well and thrown weapons deal out huge amounts of splash damage through fire and poison. But really, the most fun is in melee. Hand-to-hand weapons are fast and really do hold their own, and blunt weapons are appropriately meaty and visceral. Elevation gives you a bonus which encourages you to use the environment to your advantage. Standing on tables, boxes or stairs makes it much easier to dispatch enemies. In addition to damage, weapons have a force rating which allows you to knock down an opponent and then gives extra damage multipliers against prone enemies. Really, the highlight of this game is the bladed weapons. They are fast and slicey and allow you to take off arms, legs and heads in a very entertaining fashion. The animations and gurgling sound effects add to the experience. You've probably guessed this is not a game for kids or the weak at heart, so keep that in mind. More broadly, the sound design is outstanding. The shuffling and dragging of feet is quickly broken by screams of slavering zombies, and background sounds of moaning and groaning add to an atmosphere of dread. Let's be honest, Riptide isn't perfect and it's not going to change the world. The storyline is weak and voice acting uneven, although the combat works well. It's inherited a good few bugs from the first Dead Island, and really isn't much of a new game at all, but more of a repackaged DLC. But if you're after a few cheap laughs at the expense of some mindless zombies, there's not much to complain about here.
To celebrate the launch of Player Attack on Aurora, we are sharing some of these fantastic Turtle Beach headsets with you. The very impressive Call of Duty Black Ops 2 Air Force Kilo combines premium stereo sound with the very snazzy orange and black colour scheme we know and love from the world's biggest FPS franchise. With independent volume controls mounted directly on the cables, you can adjust the audio to your preference, so you'll never miss a chat just because there happens to be an explosion going on. All you have to do to win your very own headset is to head to playerattack.com. Follow the links to the Turtle Beach competition, fill out your name and contact details, and enter the secret keyword, which is on your screen right now. The competition is open to anyone in Australia and runs all the way up until May 10th, with the winner announced on Player Attack on Friday, May 17th. For the full terms and conditions, see our website.
Jimmy the Geek here in 1994. The big news this year, Doom 2 has been released to a massive fanfare. The sequel to the massive release from id Software comes after the original was ported to the new Linux operating system. For the Apple owners out there, a new Doom clone has been released exclusively for you guys. Marathon adds a sci-fi twist to the genre, which developers Bungie are hoping will help it catch on and stand out. From sci-fi to fantasy now, and Silicon and Synapse have changed their name to Blizzard Entertainment. The company best known for their sleeper hit The Lost Vikings has released Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. A real-time strategy game set in the kingdom of Azeroth seems to already have a strong mythology and is hinting towards a larger franchise, or world. Sticking to the PC now, and with the CD-ROM being a viable medium, games are taking advantage of all of that extra space. Origin Systems, famous for their Ultima series, have reportedly spent $4 million to hire decent actors to create videos for the latest in their line of space shooters, Wing Commander 3, Heart of the Tiger. Early reports suggest Mark Hamill plays an ace space pilot, Thomas F. Wilson is an overconfident jerk, and Malcolm McDowell plays a British guy who could be evil. It is unknown whether this affects Hamill's involvement in TIE Fighter, the new Star Wars spin-off game. Allegedly, for the first time, gamers will get to play as the Empire, bringing some balance to these terrorist attacks in a galaxy far, far away. Back home now, and the console wars are in full swing, with the Super Nintendo Entertainment System slightly out in front of the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis. The SNES's lead can be contributed not only to being the more powerful system, but also to several missteps on Sega's part to keep their aging console alive. With the release of the unremarkable Sega CD last year and the 32X this year, consumers felt burnt by the announcement of an entirely new system being released in Japan, codenamed Saturn, and hitting US stores next year. Sega is blaming mismanagement for the lack of communication between the US and Japanese teams for the oversight. Nintendo, on the other hand, really seem to have upped their game. Having learned from the mistakes from the previous entry, Nintendo have put forward a superior home port of the incredibly successful Mortal Kombat 2, including all of the blood and the fatalities for the first time. Gamers are hoping that this will help Nintendo shed the kiddie image that has haunted the company for so long. Finally, reports of a new system based entirely on CDs from Sony have surfaced from Japan. Sony were in negotiations with Nintendo to create a CD-ROM attachment for the SNES back in 1991. Negotiations have apparently fallen through, and the new console, codenamed PlayStation, will allegedly be getting a US release in 1995 and will be competing against Sega and Nintendo for a share of the home console market. Launch titles are believed to be attempts to launch franchises, with a new racing game, a new platformer, and a new one-on-one fighting game, named Ridge Racer, Rayman, and Battle Arena Toshinden respectively, already set for a number of sequels should the system beat the odds and take off. I'm Jimmy the Geek in 1994 for Player Attack.
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Next week, we chat to Ted Price from Insomniac Games all about upcoming competitive shooter Fuse, get all retro-futuristic with Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and wallow through the archives that make up 1995. In the meantime, you can catch us on playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. And if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.